knows what has come from the galaxy? Who knows what evil lurks in the skies? Beyond God, watch those around you, for who knows what today, tonight, or tomorrow will bring.
The most consistently successful form of movie entertainment is the horror film. In 1951, Howard Hawks unveiled the terror of The Thing. 30 years later, John Carpenter is terrifying audiences again with his remake of this science fiction classic. Adapted from the short story Who Goes There, the plot concerns an isolated group of research scientists who battle a murderous alien creature.
Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
Going on location provides the realistic atmosphere not found on a movie soundstage. The Thing is set in the ultimate wasteland, Antarctica. To simulate the stark desolation, Carpenter filmed in Stewart, British Columbia, and a massive glacier in Juneau, Alaska.
We picked Alaska primarily for its look, and secondly, because we could get access to the ice fields and the glaciers and build our sets out there.
After Carpenter brought his cast and crew into the former gold rush town of Stewart, British Columbia, every hotel room in the remote community of 1500 was booked. One of the key locations used in The Thing is the American Research Station. Crews worked for weeks in temperatures near 30 degrees below zero to construct the needed sets. Because some of the buildings were heated, artificial ice formations were designed, virtually impossible to distinguish from real ones.
We had a lot of problems in filming. It was cold. We had to fly in by helicopter every day to do our shots and then fly back out. A limited amount of daylight because we were shooting in November and December. We had lenses that would freeze up on us. Yeah, #1.
Although used to the balmier climate of Southern California, the star of The Thing, Kurt Russell, enjoyed working in Canada.
It was pretty rugged. I mean, it was pretty interesting. It was like being on the moon, kind of, you know. With nothing but whiteness around you.
Despite the heavy snowfall, Hollywood improved on nature. Large fans blew in artificial snow to exaggerate the blizzard scenes, and interior locations were filmed on frozen stages in the middle of a scorching Los Angeles summer.
It was about 108 degrees, and we were shooting on sets that were 20 degrees and wearing heavy parkas and things. And so when you go outside, it was difficult not to catch colds and get sick.
If shooting on location imparts an atmosphere of realism, director Carpenter admits it also adds elements of danger.
I'm dealing with shooting in very rough conditions in the snow, which is always very difficult. Dealing with big effect scenes, big chase scenes, big explosions. It's just very complex.
After writing and directing several smaller films, John Carpenter made his mark with the horrifying Halloween, acclaimed as a classic study in terror. Carpenter is also known for his suspense thrillers Escape from New York and The Fog. His creative genius is now focused on The Thing.
I felt at first it might be a mistake to try to remake any film. But then on thinking about it, what a challenge.
The monster in the original movie was played by James Arness, later known to TV audiences as Sheriff Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke.
You're saying that that thing in the ice was trying to become our dogs?
Yeah. It seems to be able to imitate other life forms.
So what's our problem?
The thing's not dead yet.
In this particular story, 12 guys begin to mistrust and distrust and be so leery of each other that they're barely able to function.
This version is quite different than the Hawks version. The biggest change in the film is the nature of the monster.
In the 1951 version of The Thing, the terrifying monster looked like a man, but was composed of vegetable matter. Critics labeled it an intellectual carrot. Not so simply labeled as Carpenter's version, which makes a gruesome metamorphosis from acquired body to body.
It's really impossible to photograph it, because it's never any one thing at any one time. It's constantly changing, so it has no original form.
Concurrent with the imagination of the 1950s, Hawk's movie monster is eliminated by electrocution. Carpenter's adaptation more closely follows the original story, but with a more volatile climax.
To me, what's fascinating about the idea of who goes there and John Carpenter's The Thing is the idea that what we have to deal with is so bizarre, and yet it's no more bizarre than what The Thing has to deal with. We're as bizarre to it as it is to us.
Where we are in the script right now, and in this story, is Antarctica. Of course, where we are here is Stewart, British Columbia. But it's not much difference, I don't think, except there's a lot more snow here. I think this is supposed to be the snow capital of the world or something, and it's doing a pretty good job of living up to its name, I think. But it's been a fabulous place, and seeing as how I spent a lot of time in Colorado, I feel pretty much at home here. The character McCready is, I don't know, not one of the most interesting people I've ever played, but I think he's a normal person. I think that he's sort of an everyman character who finds himself, along with his 11 colleagues, in an unbelievable situation. And he doesn't surge to the fore, as it were, to become the leader of this group. It's more or less a situation that he turns out to be the kind of guy that can perhaps lead them in a situation like this.
Director John Carpenter is a leading multi-talented force in Hollywood's reign of terror.
My father was a PhD in music. He headed a music department in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I grew up around music, and I sort of assimilated it without really knowing much about it.
From Bowling Green, Carpenter traveled to Los Angeles, where he attended the renowned USC Film School.
I've always admired Howard Hawks' work. He's my favorite director, and I like the kind of movies that he made, the kind of genres that he worked in. He went from comedy to science fiction to mystery to westerns, and I'd love to do that. I think every director who makes a final cut wants to have creative freedom.
Very good.
He doesn't want to make a film by committee, and he doesn't want somebody tampering with his work. And I found that when I was in low-budget films, there was really nobody that could tell me what to do. And now that I'm moving into bigger studio movies, I want to come in with the ability to make my own films. Because whether they succeed or fail, they should be mine.
I wanted to make The Thing also never look the same twice, you know, because if we see it again and again and again and again in the movie, you get kind of bored with it, you know, and it just becomes a very familiar, you know, object. So I wanted to keep it an ever-changing creature. I knew that. And also, John gave me the boundaries that it is imitating, you know, it only imitates its host at the moment that it's, you know, with it. So in other words, if it takes over you, you know, it looks like you, but then when it freaks out, you know, who knows what it looks like, so it could do anything. The reason I think I am so successful at such a young age is I was taught by, you know, one of the best special effects guys in the business. His name's Rick Baker. He won the Academy Award this year for American Werewolf. And also, I'm a real ambitious guy, you know, and I knew what I wanted to do when I was 7 years old. A lot of kids that I, you know, graduated with, I see them now, you know, and they say, you know, I still don't know what I want to do. You're so lucky you decided what you were going to do when you were 7 years old, so. I'm basically a special effects supervisor, you know, and the designer. What I do is I'm in charge of 35 people, and I have different department heads for the different areas that I work with. I work with illustrators, I work with mold makers, I work with sculptors, I work with sketch artists, I work with mechanical special effects guys. And basically what I do is go around and try to feed them each ideas, you know, and using, you know, sketches and things like that, and working out exactly what we want to see on screen with these very talented people. We actually perform a magic trick, if you will, on stage in front of a camera, so it looks totally believable. In other words, there's you know, no way that we haven't fooled the audience because it looks so good.
From Carpenter's vision, a new terror evolves, completely different from the Arness portrayal, patterned after human form.
shut the door, and he goes, okay, let's start working on this stuff. And he'd go, what's going to happen here? And I would just say a joke out of black humor, like, you know, the guy's stomach rips open and turns into a big mouth, you know, and he bites this guy's arms off. And John would start laughing, and he'd go, you know, that's not a bad idea.
Found this.
This frightening special effect began life as a prototype mask.
You go ahead and make a puppet that looks exactly like the person, and then putting mechanical effects inside to go ahead and move, you know, the puppet. We'll use hydraulics, we'll use pneumatics. We even ran one of the puppets off of a computer. The monster is constantly, you know, dripping goo, you know, and all that stuff, and then sometimes we use mayonnaise or cream corn, eggs for eyeballs, you know. It all looks good because it's real.
We'll do you last.
Some of the ideas and stuff, I guess, are just from having a very big imagination. You know, I'm always daydreaming about things. And also, I was afraid of the dark when I was a kid. You know, so I was always wondering, you know, what would be under the bed.
He really sets it up and then lets your imagination do a lot for you. You see a lot, but I think what your imagination comes up with is probably much scarier than what you see.
The Thing is one of the best screenplays I've ever read. And it's unique in a real special sort of way. And I just love it.
Where's that man, McCready? Anyone messes with me and the whole camp goes. Put the torches on the floor and back off. Back off. Way off.